Today, on Exploring Limitations, my friends and I are visiting Flux Magnetic Studios in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, where they record on big boy tape machines. Here we go. Today I'm introducing you to Flux Magnetic Studios, not far from the Pencil Factory recording studio where you may have seen some other videos. There are two guys running it.
Well, my name is Victor Dominicis.
Yeah, my name is Konstantin Perutin.
Victor is actually a pioneer in the New York City crust punk scene, playing a bit with Reagan Youth before forming the band Nausea, and he now performs with Coffin Daggers these days. Side note, if you dig 1980s socialist, anarchist, anti-racist music, I highly recommend you check out the bands that Victor's played in. Konstantin, he grew up in Russia and has a sound engineering background. He worked in IT in New York City for a while before meeting up with Victor. Together they are Flux Magnetic Studios. Today we are going to focus mainly on their primary tracking machine, the MCI JH-16. So without further ado, let's head over to Flux Magnetic Studios and start with threading the beast.
So to thread this beast up, you need to grab the bleeder tape like this. Then you lower the shields. So you thread it through here, thread it through this impedance lower, the roller, whatever it's called. And you hold your finger like this. And then you cue it up to the splice point. Like this. Then you can close the shields.
Okay, before we go further, let's go over this machine's stats. As the name implies, the JH-16 runs 16-track, 2-inch tape, which for most people old enough to remember is...
Well, that's the Cadillac recording, or Lamborghini, or whatever you want to call it.
The JH-16 has two speeds, 15 inches per second and 30 inches per second. Super hi-fi.
It's about at the best fidelity.
Without using like noise reduction and all that stuff. Once you go to 24 track, you have to use Dolby, or like at least on some of the stuff. Here you don't have to.
Oh yeah, so there's no noise reduction on this?
No, there's none at all.
Noise reduction came in around the time of 24 track came in, because they wanted to be able to hit the tape as hard as 16.
Yep. The JH-16 also features Varispeed controls and this super nifty manual velocity control that we're gonna look at later. Check out these 16-track tape heads. Beautiful pieces of machinery.
It's better than 24 track too.
MCI was a company founded in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, go figure, and their most popular machine was their 24-track on 2-inch tape. 2-inch tape. Obviously, to fit more tracks onto the same size tape, you're shrinking the track width, and that's achieved on the tape head itself. More experienced folks say there's a higher degree of noise on a 24-track 2-inch tape due to the smaller width. Auto Locator. Next up, Konstantin explains the auto locator, or some would call it the remote, for this machine. So let's go over to the, what is this called, a control panel?
Auto locator is what they call it. So that's like a take that didn't make it there, and then we set the counter, and we're all
And what's
ready to go.
the counter? What is the digital display showing?
Oh, this is a really funky system. So this is your current location. This is where you go into. And there's also a 0 that's implied. So you're at the beginning of the reel, right? And you zero it out. So the machine thinks, okay, here's the 0. Then you have your current position and the place you go to. So actually have kind of like 3 positions. And then you can tell it where you want to go. If you wanted to go, just say like 4 minutes from here, you can say 4 minutes and hit start. And then it's going to automatically locate. So it's a pretty smart system, considering it was like conceived in like early 70s.
One of the things I love about this machine is that it looks like it's from the 70s.
Yeah,
Aesthetic.
Faux wood panel.
Yeah, the faux wood panels. listening to a recording. Now Constantine has queued up an original piece that he and his bandmates recorded. Now what you're about to hear is the sound of the tape machine going through their Soundcraft board, and then a feed of that going into our audio recorder. You'll hear Constantine making some panning and volume moves right at the start. This is unmixed, pure, unadulterated, tapey goodness.
Sitting in the darkness, you were all alone, you see, like never before. You might see this as invitation to reflect the seconds been ignored.
Frickin' love this music. Again, it's one of Constantine's projects. It reminds me of like a combo of Yes and Frank Zappa. You can hear that the sound and the vibe are so 1970s in the best way possible. Even though you're hearing a feed that was recorded on a Zoom recorder and now you're listening to it on YouTube, there's still no denying the sounds that you're hearing. I wish that you could have all been there and heard it in person through speakers. Now that we've heard some music, one of the fun features on these MCI machines is the manual velocity control, or MVC. This feature really helps to locate a precise part of tape for edits or queuing up something specific manually. Constantine shows us here.
Any video of like MCI you ever see, like you see people playing with the MVC, well, that's basically for queuing up if you need to find something, so you don't have to do this. Basically, if you want to queue up just a specific spot and then make a mark or something on spot array stuff. It's touch sensitive, so I guess it's the grandfather of, like, you know, touch technology that's on your phone.
Under the hood. One of the big reasons that the MCI machines have stuck around and lasted for so long is that they actually used common electrical components, not all proprietary stuff like a Studer or an Ampex machine. And those electronic components can still be sourced relatively easy today. In fact, the machines themselves are even modular. The 8-track and the 16 and the 24-track are all easily interchangeable with themselves. You can just swap out tape heads. Constantine and Victor explain. Is it okay to look at the guts right now, or does it have to be off? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's like a card. And you can see all the pinball electronics in here. That's, you know, the pinball machines are like pretty much the same way. When I was like trying to...
Are you serious?
Yeah, when I was trying to fix it, like I was looking up like pinball videos and stuff.
That's what I
like,
meant by off-the-shelf parts.
Yeah.
Very standard, like 70s stuff.
Yeah, like these would be in arcades and pinballs.
There's like nothing proprietary in there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a few things that are proprietary, but most of it are not.
Yeah.
You can have like ceramic packages over here that is like so like 70s, like, you know, like Apollo mission type of. And then you get the drawers. The drawers are full of electronics, which is responsible for, you know, controlling the channels and setting up the bias tones and other things.
Regular maintenance. Of course, when you go on forums and dig through the weeds of internet engineering discussions, the maintenance is one of the most common complaints about this old tape machine format. However, when I asked them about it, I was very surprised by Constantine and Victor's response. How often do you have to calibrate this machine?
Pretty much every time before the session.
Yeah.
You have to calibrate it. A lot of older engineers make it out to be like, you know, a hurdle and a painful process, which it is if you have to do it from the ground. It takes forever. But, you know, once you set it, it'll drift a little bit. So you have to just check on it every time before you run the session. You have to make sure that it didn't drift. Mm-hmm. Because it has millions of components that all change with temperature and humidity and, you know, God knows what else.
How long does it take you now, you, Constantine, to calibrate this machine?
It takes about maybe 40 minutes if I have to recalibrate from the start, if I'm continuing on the same tape. Because mostly you recalibrate for the recording side. Every time you change the tape formulation, you have to recalibrate because different tape types require different adjustments. So that means you have to test record a bunch of tones and, you know, do it for about maybe 25 minutes. But if you're using the same formulation, you just check if everything is still there, and then you can start the session.
Is that why you said earlier 1,000 kilohertz or 1,000 hertz is stuck in your head all the time?
Before I go to bed and I sleep.
Well, you need 1K for everything, to adjust everything, so it's kind of like it's the one you hear the
everything's
most.
got it, right?
Studio maintenance and analog.
This discussion on the machine's maintenance evolved into a chat about maintaining a studio in general. Check out the guy's take on analog versus digital, which I actually think is very open-minded.
To make sure that everything is passing the tone, you have to run the tones before each session. So you make sure this thing is not acting up, because patch bass have this, they have this quality where they just stop working and you have to jiggle them or whatever. So everything in the chain can, betray you one or another way. So that's why before the session you have to check everything, including the machine.
And that's why you hire pros like Victor and Constantine when you want to do your session.
To check your patch bass.
This is the things that some people aren't thinking of.
We get headaches, so you don't have to.
Analog kind of inherits all that stuff that you have to deal with, You have to deal with all the gremlins and machines that are, over 40 years old and stuff like that.
But then, digital's just exchanging one set of problems for another because, there's computer crashes and mysterious reasons why the thing won't open and that kind of stuff. So.
You have to deal over there. You have to deal with bugs updates and millions of drop-down menus.
Yeah.
Here, it's all physical.
It's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, really, at the end of the day.
I don't think that's controversial at all. Remember, this is art we're talking about, folks. Victor and Constantine are not ascetic or dogmatic, analog-only types. We are all fortunate enough to live in a time where we have access to amazing tools from the past and the present. Could you imagine a modern steel and glass Notre Dame cathedral? Would you judge someone for constructing a building with masonry today? Maybe, but I'm not here to advocate for one way, but instead for both ways of recording, always. This is art. You do whatever you want, to your heart's content. And if that means recording everything on your phone, it's all good. It's all good, brothers and sisters and humans. Victor, Constantine, and I dive further into these topics in a discussion that was also filmed that day. I'll be editing that video this week and releasing it soon. If you're interested in recording at Flux Magnetic Studios, I highly recommend it, but with one caveat. Only if your band is ready to track humans live together. Minimum of 2 people in a room. For me, that's what makes recording to tape so exciting. The human element gets captured and cannot be erased. Well, it can be erased. The human element is captured and cannot be altered in a significant way, cannot be dehumanized in any major way. Like I said earlier, I think these guys are more open-minded than many engineers I've run into in the past. They're committed to providing a space, to capture an incredible performance, and to leave the humanity in the recording. I've linked to their website below. Please check it out if you are in New York City or in the surrounding areas. I hope you enjoyed that mini tour, and there's more to come. I'd like to thank the crew, aka my friends. They are all artists themselves in their own rights, and you should check out what they do. Links below. If you like what I do here, links to my Bandcamp, my Patreon, and my original music are all down below as well. But with that, as always, is peace, and be good to each other.